Because the truck didn't actually come with a rear bed, I needed to source that, and thanks to Rich from Purple Monk, I can't even say that. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, instead of working on the 52 Chevy, I'm going to give you a 100% complete overview of everything that's been going on with this truck project since the very beginning. A lot of you might not realize this, but I actually started this project back in February of 2020, right before the Rona hit, and I wanted to stockpile as much footage working on the truck as I could because I knew a lot of stuff was going to take a lot longer than expected. Some of the stuff that you see in my videos that is posted in a 20-minute video might have actually taken me 2 weeks to do on the truck. So I want to give myself enough leeway on the truck project where I can still post one video a week and try to stay as consistent as possible, posting videos for all of you guys out there to see. As you can see the truck right now, today is September 10th, 2021, and this is where the truck actually stands today. So after I've given you a complete rundown of the entire build process so far, I'll then go over everything we plan on doing moving forward from today. So way back on June 9th is when I posted the very first video for everyone to see out there in internet land, and that was my Code 504 unboxing video. In part 2, we actually took the body off the original frame, we got rid of the original frame and the original 6-cylinder engine. We gave that to a metal scrapper, he took that away, and we knew we were going to put this on a Chevy S10 frame, so I needed to get rid of that out of the garage. I'm working in a 3-car garage here, so I have very limited space with another street rod in here, so I'm constantly shifting stuff around to work. So that was part 2. So in part 3, Dave and I headed over to LKQ, the local pick and pull here. We found the perfect rear end for the truck out of a mid-90s Blazer. It's actually a limited slip with 342 gears. In part 4, Dave and I installed the Chevy 350 2-port injection motor into the actual frame of the Chevy S10. In part 5, I modified the transmission bracket here. Normally it's flipped upside down, so this will pull a lot of junk inside it. I didn't like that, so I flipped it over and modified the bracket to actually hold the transmission. So while we're under the truck, in part 6, we removed all of the brackets for the S10 off of the frame. So in part 7, we're able to get the airbags installed in the front of the truck. In part 8, we were able to get the front cab mounts installed and bolted to the frame rails. We also modified them a little bit and started welding stuff to the frame instead of just bolting. In part 9, to make room for the airbags, we had to add this little notch into the upper bag mount to add some clearance for the bags themselves, so they don't hit it all now. Plenty of clearance all around this section right in here. Because the truck didn't actually come with a rear bed, I needed to source that, and thanks to Rich from Purple Monkey Customs, Dave and I ran up there and we were able to pick up a rear bed, fenders, a running board, a dash, and in this video in part 10, we actually unloaded all that stuff off of the trailer. In part 11, we were able to get the frame horns installed from the Code 504 kit onto the front of the S10 frame. In part 12, I was able to pick up a new set of lower control arms right here. And these lower control arms, not only are they meant for bags, but they're also meant to drop the truck another 3 inches to give it the right height we were looking for. In part 13, I removed the original S10 rear end, as well as the leaf springs out of the truck. In part 14, it was pretty much my triangulated 4-link prep, which involved removing the rear leaf spring brackets off of the newer S10 rear end, as well as removing all the brackets on the frame for the leaf springs, getting that all cleaned up to get the triangulated 4-link installed in the next video, which we did in part 15. And in part 15, we actually got the triangulated 4-link completely installed into the truck. That involved the new mid-90s Blazer rear end, the triangulated links on top of the rear end, as well as the 4-link bars connecting to the lower frame and upper frame. There's a lot of stuff going on right here in this shot, but in part 16, we're able to get the C-notch installed into the actual S10 frame to allow the frame to completely drop over the rear axle. In part 17, I actually started boxing in the frame all along here, just to add a little bit more rigidity to the actual S10 frame. So this was done on both sides, so the frame is completely boxed in now. So in part 18, we're back on the transmission cross member. This time we're fixing it once again. The problem is when I lower the truck all the way down, the cross member from Code 504 ran underneath the frame, and that would actually hit first, start to teeter-totter front to back on the cross member. So I had to revamp this entire bracket, weld into place, and get it so it's actually flush with the bottom of the frame instead of actually hanging below the frame. In part 19, Dave and I were able to get the body onto the actual S10 frame. In part 20, Dave and I were able to get the entire front clip, including the hood, mounted onto the front of the truck. In part 21 and part 22, I completely tore apart the rear bed supports on both sides, shortened the bed about 10 inches, and reconstructed the entire bed so it fits perfectly onto the truck as a shorty. In part 23, I modified the Code 504 kit and made my own truck bed mounts for the rear bed, here and there, as well as in the very back of the truck. Right back here, mounted to the side of the frame. The rear truck bed mounts are right there. In part 24, I shortened the existing running boards, as well as made custom running board brackets that bolt directly to the side of the frame to give the truck a lower look when aired all the way out. In part 25, I added custom bump stops to the front and rear of the truck. This will allow it to stop about a half an inch off the ground when fully aired out, and the truck will still roll around. Right here we're looking at the front bump stop, and right back here we have the rear bump stops. These will be adjusted when all the new tires are on the rims for final placement and height. In part 26, Dave and I put the truck on 4 casters, pushed it out into the driveway, over it in front of the single car stall, and then winched it back up onto the lift where the truck currently sits right now. In part 27, I added shocks to the rear of the truck. These shocks are off of a 2006 Chevy HHR. They have the perfect travel when fully aired up and when fully aired out. In part 28, I installed the front shocks. These are the exact same shocks I used in the rear, 2006 Chevy HHR gas shocks. In part 29, I installed a gas tank out of a 1967 Mercury Cougar. I built the framework to fit the tank in between the frame rails. It fits absolutely perfect. The fill nozzle will actually fill up directly through the wood bed in the back. In part 30, I took the drive shaft off of the Chevy Blazer that we've got from the junkyard, cut the drive shaft in half, and mocked it up into the S10 frame here. So it fits absolutely perfect. This drive shaft will then be taken out, and a real drive shaft will be made based off of this template here. In part 31, Dave and I were able to get the front bumper and filler panel installed onto the truck using the Code 504 brackets. In part 32, I was able to fabricate the brackets to hold the rear bumper in place, as well as the custom filler panel right here. And we also installed the tailgate at the time, which we took off when we did the bed. In part 33, I installed these custom rear filler panels for the rear bumper, so it actually blocks from viewing underneath the bumper when the truck's up or down. These will get all smoothed out later on in the finishing process, but they came out really good. In part 34, I had to customize the filler panels for the running boards because we did shorten the bed of the truck. It made the filler panels shorter, so I had to splice these down the center, shorten them up, so they actually fit perfect now, right inside here underneath the bed, just like that. In part 35, I took 14 to 16 inch steel trailer fenders, cut them down the center, and fabricated them to actually work as wheel tubs in the back bed of the truck. In part 36, I bought an '89 Firebird crossover pipe, hacked it into pieces, and modified it to fit perfectly as a crossover pipe for my Chevy 350 2-port injection motor in the Chevy S10 frame. It's all stainless, welded together. This is going to be wrapped with heat tape to keep the heat down a little bit in this area here. But it came out absolutely perfect, and it's not hanging down below the truck for when we air the truck out. It's going from a 2 into 1 3-inch all the way back. In part 37, we continued on fabricating the exhaust. This is a 3-inch stainless steel pipe going into a stainless MagnaFlow muffler. Goes around the gas tank, splits into a U adapter to give it the appearance of having dual exhaust. The custom show fill logo was made by OSH Cut Online, and it pops out underneath the rear of the bumper here. This is actually a 54 bumper, flipped upside down so the notch is hanging down below. Allows the truck to air all the way out without touching the ground. In part 38, I installed the Champion 3-core aluminum radiator and shroud, as well as a 16x19 AC condenser into the front of the truck. We also have a 2500 CFM electric fan going in. Had to modify the front radiator bracket to fit everything, but it fits great. In part 39, I have the chrome I Did It steering column installed, as well as customizing the steering linkage using a Heim joint, U-joint, all the way down to the gearbox to make it around the stock manifolds on the engine. In part 40, I got 2 brand new parking brake cables installed on both rear drums of the truck. These parking brake cables will then go into a custom electronic parking brake system that I built myself. In part 41, we fabricated this box right here, put a 2-inch linear actuator in there, and it pulls on the parking brake cables using a switch to have full electronic parking brake capability. In part 42 and part 43, I fabricated all the framework for the rear wood bed supports. It's going to be a 2-tiered approach. This section back here is slightly higher, and then it steps up right here on the axle and then rides back a little bit farther here. So we do get as much bed depth as we can in the very back of the truck. In part 44, I fabbed up the brackets to hold the 2 air compressors in the 5-gallon tank underneath the rear wood bed. The air tank and the 2 compressors are completely independent from the entire rear bed structure, so the rear bed can be removed without disrupting the air in the truck. In part 45, I fabricated a dual battery tray that welded up perfectly to the driver's side frame rail underneath the cab. Everyone's asking me why I put it on the driver's side, because on the passenger side I have the exhaust running straight down. So I wanted to have the batteries over here as far away from the heat in the exhaust as possible. In part 46, Dave and I tried to install the visor on the truck. However, it was fighting us the entire way, and this just does not fit correctly. I think it's for a car, not for a truck. So this visor is going to go away. In part 47, I showed you the new to me chrome 18-inch Panther rims. These rims cleaned up pretty nice. They're 5 by 4 3/4 inch lug pattern, and they have a 4 7/8 inch back spacing on the truck. I do need to get new rubber for these tires, as they are way too short for the truck, and the tires are actually a little bit too narrow for these rims. So I'm going to get new tires. Once I get the new tires, I'll figure out what spacers I need for the front and the back of the truck, as well as where I need to adjust the bump stops for when the truck is completely aired out. So hopefully that gives you a little overview of everything we've been working on for over the past year right now, from part 1 all the way up to part 47 with the rims. We have a lot of stuff coming up. First thing we're going to work on is probably fixing the floor in the truck, so that should be coming up in the next video. We're going to fix the floor, then we're going to fix the kick panel on the firewall. Once that's done, we're going to figure out where we need the AC lines to run in the engine compartment. Once we know where those go, we're going to yank the motor out. The motor's going over to Dave's house for a complete refresh. In addition to having the engine completely rebuilt and refreshed, we also have a lot of other stuff we need to work on at the same time. We've got Altman latches to install. We have one-piece windows to install in the passenger and driver's side door, as well as a power window kit. We're going to install a complete custom dash with a 2-DIN stereo as well as AC vents. We're going to install a completely electronic digital dash from Intellitronics. We're going to be installing a complete brand new chrome front bumper as well as a front grille on the truck and new chrome bezels around the headlights. We're going to be shaving the door handles. We're going to be installing poppers, so you just press a button on a remote, the doors will pop open. I have the 3rd row seat out of a Chevy Tahoe, tan pleather interior with the seat belts. These fold down really nice. They just need to get cleaned up a little bit. These will be going in as the main seat in the truck. And obviously on top of everything else we're going to be doing, once we take out the engine, we can start working on the interior, getting the dash situated. The body can come off, the front panel can come off, the rear bed can come off, and the bodywork phase will start on the truck. Once the body is off the truck, we can start cleaning up the frame, doing all the finish welding, doing all the body work we need to do on the truck. So that's going to be coming up very soon as well. All right, everyone, that's going to be a wrap for this video. As you can see, over the past year, we've gotten a ton of stuff accomplished on this truck project. We have a lot more stuff coming up. Hopefully everything I just went over with you clarifies what we've been doing along the entire way, all the different steps we've been taking. Hopefully you find it helpful. It's moving right along. Sometimes it just goes a little bit slower than expected. I got a better camera, so the quality of the video should be better. I'm using a mic now, so the audio should be a lot better. So as always, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, smash the subscribe button, smash that notification icon down below so you know when I do post future videos, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.